this afternoon is rather short and perfunctory. It's ceremonial in nature. I know this is the start of a number of guest lectures as part of the Advanced Project Management program. And the idea, as I have it, is to assist participants with bridging the gap between or bridging the so-called learning by doing gap, by introducing participants, for example, to industry experts and to expose them to world case scenarios, case studies, international best practice, competitor intelligence information, etc., etc. The Center for Business Dynamics, which is hosting the short course, is a commercial entity of the business school, tasked with offering a cross-section of courses that help to empower businesses and leaders and students in the fields of business management, project management, financial management, supply chain management, procurement, entrepreneurship, venture capital formation, venture creation, etc., etc. So I'm very proud to have the unit under the auspices of the business school. It used to be run by Dion Barnard, who's moved on to newer pastures, and we've begun a process of transitioning it while maintaining the credibility, the excellence, and the rigor of our short course offerings. The business school is also repositioning itself to play a more practical role in the field of SMEs and young entrepreneurs. So the idea really is to change the learning path so that students come through our formal offerings with the theoretical, philosophical, intellectual, and empirical knowledge that they require, but also through the establishment of incubate and experimental lab to test some of their ideas and to expose them to concepts and methods in business resilience and continuity, for example, especially in the context of COVID, where so many people have suffered. So Marie, and to the rest of your team, I'm very proud of the work you're doing, and to all the participants. I wish you a really, sorry, a post-COVID nasal drip. I wish you all well, and to Cindy, thank you for being the custodian of this session. Your skills, competencies, your career path, and your experience speak for themselves. We're honored and we're very privileged to have you here, and I wish you all the very best in your afternoon. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Good afternoon, and thank you so much for having me. Prof. Pete had invited me to transition you guys into the new APM series for this section and for this year. And I'm really and truly going to touch the tip of the iceberg. Let me first and foremost try and share my screen. Where is it now?
I can see Cindy.
Can you see it? I must just put it into
presentation mode.
Yeah.
While
Is
you're
that-
There we
getting
go,
ready,
Cindy. Perfect.
Yes.
I would just like to mention to all the guests and delegates in this session, if you have any questions as Cindy goes along with her presentation, you're welcome to make use of the chat box. You can type your questions there. Prof and myself, we will field the questions, and
Yes.
at any stage you're welcome just to put up your hand and ask a question as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Marie.
And Cindy is, remember in the class this morning, for those who's in the class, we were talking about knowledge takes you so far, but wisdom is something you can only relearn. And Cindy in my world is really one of those wise people, not just because of her knowledge, but because of her attitude. So thank you, Cindy.
Don't set me up too much, please.
Well, I said to them the first time we talked about this, Cindy, and I was saying to you, and we were talking about agile or waterfall, and you said yes. It's like, oh.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, let me get going on this. Why the topic agile and waterfall? I just want to be able to the way that the presentation is going to go. Where am I now? I've lost control. There you go. Honestly, this is going to be a skimming on the top of an iceberg. It's really, I'm going to touch on it. I know that some of your next speakers are going to get more into the detail, but what I'd like to cover today is what do we understand by waterfall? What do we understand by agile? Touch on some of the agile Scrum ceremonies and terminology that you will get bombarded with. I want to take a little sample project scenario, and there's always this discussion about, can it be used in non-development projects? Can agile be used in non-development projects? And so we'll touch on that. So without further ado, so when we talk about project management, it's basically a prioritized task list. So if you were going to, and a project can be anything. It can be building a house. It can be having putting together a wedding. You know, you've got to prioritize everything. So the simplest form of project management is a prioritized task list. Waterfall is exactly that, but it's a much more structured, linear approach. It's been around since the early 1900s. I think, if I remember some of the notices and the documentation and books that you read, it's about 1930, if I'm not mistaken. The reason that becomes it becomes a waterfall project is there's a lot more formal documentation. You've got initialization documents. You've got a lot of planning documents up front. Everything has to be signed off and agreed in triplicate. It really is very document heavy. Not saying that agile isn't document heavy, but agile in my world is, documents are definitely necessary, but they're not as heavy. And that's where the terminology agile suits it like a glove. Agile has been around formally for about the 25 years. I think it started in much earlier, maybe the 50s, I think, but it really formally only came around when the manifesto was signed in 2001. But now it is the chosen methodology used in most of the tech companies in the world. Google, Facebook, Apple, all of them. I think even Elon Musk with his venture to the moon, I think also he's very agile. You know, it was fail fast, fail quickly, and adapt and learn. But if you just look at this little graphic that I've got on the slides, it's basically the above the waterfall project is, so you plan, you create, you'll review what you've actually created. Is somebody talking, asking? Sorry, I heard. Okay. And then the bottom of the graphic is an agile project. Basically, is you plan, create, review, and release in iterations, and you carry on going that way. So we'll get back into this image shortly. So as I said, waterfall is typically something that's a step-through process. It's referred to as waterfall because a waterfall does exactly that. And to put it simply, waterfall is a process of creating the agreed plan, sticking to it, and if there's any change, that has to go through a very formal change process after that. And like my little cartoon in this in this slide is saying, is it too late to add four floors here? Yes, in a waterfall project for sure. But you can take, if you were building a building in an agile way, you know, they would say, well, what do you need the 4 floors for? And they might find a different way to incorporate the new requirement, you know, for instance. But let's just stick to the actual reality. In Agile, it's a much more adaptable process as the project progresses and new features can be discovered and implemented with ease. So Agile uses a more flexible inspect and adapt iterative approach. It's a set of values and principles which I'll touch on. I'm sure your next speaker tomorrow will be going into this a lot more, so I'm not going to repeat. But if something's not feasible, the stakeholder can say, listen, that's not what the market wants at the moment. We need to scrap that feature and move on to a more value-driven feature. So it's a continuous delivery approach, continuous improvement. And it's actually such a pleasure to work in an agile team, an agile project, because there's so much excitement. You know, if something really isn't working, you can convince the stakeholder, listen, this is a bad idea. The market isn't going to want this. And it's a negotiation and a discussion and a conversation that you can continually have and you can continually improve on. So that's my 2 cents worth. So in Agile, one of the ways Agile, well, I think the first Agile methodology was Scrum, and Scrum ceremonies and the Scrum terminology. I'd like to just touch on some of them because you'll hear these phrases quite a bit. And a Scrum team is a very focused and committed team. It's not a huge team. You can have multiple Scrum teams, and they can be working on one single project. And then you'll have a Scrum of Scrums, where one person from each of the Scrum teams becomes a representative at the Scrum of Scrums. But the team itself is a cohesive, committed team. They are totally accountable and they are totally respected. They are self-organizing. They do not, there is no such thing as micromanaging them. As a project manager, you are part of the Scrum team. So you don't sit in a little tower saying, oh, you do this, you do that. That's gone. Those days are gone. The Scrum team, you are part of the team. The iteration is a term that it means exactly that. It's an iterative process and a chunk of work to focus on that the team focuses on for the next sprint. The sprint is a time period that the Scrum team will work on a chosen iteration. The daily stand-up is the most important ceremony within the Scrum team. It's a team meeting and it's a same time of day every single day for the team. And there you go. It's not even 15 minutes is about the longest that you should have as a daily stand-up. Where every single team member would go around and they'll say, well, yesterday I did this, today I'm planning to do that. Have I got an impediment? Actually, yes, I can't get into that server. Nobody's given me access yet, and please can somebody help me? So it's a discussion between all the team members. It's not for outside parties to come in. It's for the team to summarize what they're doing today, what they did yesterday, and have they got impediments. Very, very valuable meeting. A sprint retrospective is done at the end of the sprint so that the team can say, well, gee, what went well, what didn't go well, what did we discover, is there any new things that we think we should suggest to the business, and celebrate the wins that they've had during that sprint. If they managed to bring some extra stories from the backlog in, and because they had extra time, that extra capacity, that's great. And the demo is always at the end of the sprint to show the stakeholders the actual what they have succeeded in, what they've managed to produce. Is it still relevant to the business? Do they still need to go down this road, and so on? So those ceremonies are very, very valuable. And as long as you stick to that, some sprints are 2 weeks. Some in the financial industry I found that they preferred 3-week sprints, but in a development shop, 2-week sprints are preferred. So you can just keep that momentum going. So to see all of these terminologies and ceremonies in a nutshell, this is a pretty good visual, because it's showing you that so you'll get a product owner is basically your plug-in to the business. So from a project management point of view, you might decide, look, I don't want to be a Scrum Master, but I do want to be a product owner so that I can deal with people in the business. So a product owner is your gateway into the business, and he belongs to the Scrum team. He will populate the backlog, tell you what features are required in this project, and whether it's a construction project or whether it's an IT project, he owns this product backlog. That product backlog will feed into the sprint planning meeting. You can't put a roof on before you can put the foundations down. So the team will decide, okay, what do we need? What is the basis we need? Whether it's a development, an IT project, you're going to need a database. You're going to need your access to the servers. You know, so the team then will pull everything in. They'll prioritize what's in the backlog and then pull it in as a story into the sprint planning meeting. So then once you've decided, okay, that's what we're doing in this 2-week sprint, that gets closed off and it goes into this 2-week sprint. And you will sprint for 1, 2, 3 days, 4 days, up until the end of your sprint, whether it's a 1-week sprint or a 4-week sprint, like this is saying, but typically in an IT environment, it becomes a 2-week sprint. And then, as I was saying, that daily Scrum meeting where you're discussing what was needed, have we got any impediments and everything, that daily Scrum happens every 24 hours. And as you're working through all of this, you will see that the work that you brought in burns down, and eventually at the end of your 2 weeks, you'll find, well, our sprint is completed, and we're ready for review, and we'll do the demo, and then that little box is representative of the shippable product that goes into. It can go into the live production environment if you're wanting it to, or not. You know, it's just, okay, that's ticked off the product backlog. It can sit and wait for something else to come along or not, depending on the project. You happy?
Great, thanks, Cindy.
Hmm?
No, I just said happy, thanks.
Okay. So I put this together in last year as well. We discussed it, and it was very relevant because, so as a sample project scenario, when COVID hit, none of us expected the whole world to close and that we were going to be locked away. So this was the scenario I posed. It's February 2020 and you're working for this company, and that the global pandemic hit, and all of a sudden now you've got no walk-in sales. There's no there's no shopping because all the stores are closed, and it could possibly close the company down. So your CEO scheduled an urgent meeting and says, okay, he needs an online shop and he needs it to go live before the shutdown. How do we do it? You know, is it possible? Are you going to be able to pull this rabbit out the hat? Now, you know, waterfall would have required all these planning documents. It would have required, you know, sure, he might do the budget separately. He might pull the strings out for all the top-heavy documentation. But the fact of the matter is, waterfall, it would be very hard. So I've brought back this image to show you, you know, in waterfall, you still would have had to get the plan, do the creating, the review and the release. With Agile, I'm saying, on this right-hand side, these are the items that basically your CEO has asked as the delivery point. And he has booked the marketing, the television adverts have been booked for next week, and you're going to have to go live. It's impossible when you look at it from a waterfall point of view. But with Agile, there definitely is, you can do it, and you don't have to be a magician. So what I'm suggesting in this scenario is Sprint 1, you could have been able to get the domain registered. You could get all your databases behind the firewalls. You could get them backed up. You could make sure that everything, when that site goes live, everything's going to be there. You could maybe even get the customer login, the actual portal that captures the customer. You could get that in place. Especially by end of February, you could be capturing customers. You could get their email addresses, etc., etc. By Sprint 3, you might have been able to build in the products. Do you sell milk and bread, or whatever the shop is? And slowly, you know, in the background, it can carry on and carry on. But you would have a live online presence by the end of February, which wouldn't have happened in the waterfall way. So that's, to me, is why I love Agile. You know, I'm a bit of an advocate. And I know I've seen developers that they definitely enjoy working in this way. So where you can also see Agile being used in non-IT projects is wherever a large chunk of work needs to be broken up into smaller iterations and smaller sprints. You'll see this first bullet point, I'm saying a university thesis. Now, just imagine if your professor has said, okay, well, I want a 50-page thesis done by 4 months' time, and I want it handed in on that date. So if you just went off, work on your 50 pages, you give it in at the end of your 4 months, you'll come back and you've completely missed the point. If you did it on an iterative chunk, bite-sized chunks, and check in with your prof wherever you can, you'd say, well, hey, Prof Pete, am I on the right track, you know, or whatever. You could not miss the boat. You know, you have to do it in a iterative way to find out if gee, I didn't miss the boat. I did get the correct idea of what I must do. That's my 2 cents worth. Non-profit organizations, they can't plan when there's going to be a flood, and people, for example, like in Durban, they've had to, when those floods came through, that they have to just make things happen. You've got to get somebody into community halls or whatever, you know, you've got to be able to jump in and do things. That's using Agile. Restaurants, hotels, hospitals, they all use Agile without even realizing it. So yeah, so that's my take on that. And this is also a question that's often, so can Agile and Waterfall be used together? And definitely they can, definitely. There's no reason why not. I've particularly found it when you're working in a company that has a very structured PMO, and a lot of them have it for very good reasons. You can definitely coexist with a waterfall PMO. So I'm just trying to think. I was going to tell you something. It just went out of my head.
Cindy, one thing, I'm so glad you said that, because I mean, one of the discussions we've been having on the APM is it's not the one or the other one. It's just what's right for what I'm busy doing. So of course it's going to be agile. Some things works better one way, some things work better the other way. It's almost at our peril that we say, no, we are an agile shop or we are a waterfall shop. It's just a waterfall might be the bigger overall thing, but within that waterfall, you still have to be agile. Yeah. And then you also can apply a lot of those agile methodologies within different things, like you're saying. So I think that's just the yes, when you said agile or waterfall, it's like, yeah.
No, look, I mean, I did a consulting a assignment at Old Mutual, and they have got a very, very structured PMO, and everything had to be done exactly on their templates as they wanted it, and you know, you can't. From a project management point of view, it's very difficult because you have to put on your agile hat for your team and for what you're delivering. But from a project management point of view, from the company, they're not interested in how you're going to deliver it or what your sprints are, everything. They want it reported on the way they want it reported on, and you can't change that. I think the one thing that I'd like to touch on is from an organizational point of view. If you're trying to change a waterfall company, they're just stuck in the old ages, to try and change them to a agile company, that is quite a challenge. And unless you've got a champion in Exco, in your senior executive, it is an uphill battle. You know, if you in that if they're stuck in that right world, it is an uphill battle, but it can be done. The best thing is to have a pilot project using Agile, using Scrum, and really make it a success. And from there, the conversations become a lot easier, a lot easier. I see I've gone very, very fast through these things, so pretty.
Cindy, but we had a couple of hands up, so I mean.
Oh, okay.
I think there's a couple of people that just wants to tap into your wisdom a bit. Okay. I think that the two things that just, Smanga, I'll give, I acknowledge you, but the two things, Cindy, I think always that's so important for me is with Agile is, and the thing is, like you say, is there's Agile and there's Waterfall. There's nothing wrong with either of them. It's where you use them. Just don't let the tail wag the dog, you know? Yeah. But I think the two things you said to me is like, in Agile, it's so important to have that business knowledge there all the time. I mean, we were talking this morning about if it's a Scrum and one of your locks isn't there or your hooker isn't there, you're going to lose. So it's very important that you do that. And I think the other thing is a stand-up is not a death march. A stand-up, and you put a time on it. You said 15-minute max. Yeah. And that's right, because it's like everybody is fine. Do I need help? Yes, no, it's fine. Then at the end of the week, when you look at your sprint, then you can bring those other things up. But the stand-ups are not there to reschedule and respec. They're just there to check everything's still going okay. And I think those are the two things that, to me, with Agile is really, really important. So the Scrum is there because everybody's scrummed together, and the stand-up is there because, is there anything wrong? Let's just fix it now. If it's not, let's just continue. Yeah. But thank you very much. Cindy Smanga has had his hand up twice now. So.
Oh, shame. Sorry, you must interrupt me, man.
No, I I was, and then he took his hand down, but he put it back up. So Smanga, it's yours.
Hi, Prof. Thanks, Prof. Hi, Cindy.
Hi.
Just a quick, I think quick observation from my side, from where I'm standing, and probably I'm not sure whether my opinion might be wrong or right when I try to analyze how things are going in terms of the agile and methodology and the other methodology that we use, which is the waterfall one. According to how I understand it, is after you have explained it, I'm not sure that whether my understanding will be correct in saying. When I look at the methodology that you refer to as waterfall, it becomes, if the companies are sticking to it, for instance, majority of the companies fall under because they are resistant to change, or they're not adaptable to change compared to the fragile methodology, whereby, agile methodology, because that is adaptable to change, and you see them functioning and existing for a longer period of time. I'll make an example, for instance, with cell phone companies. When I looked at Motorola, probably you'll remember, because some of us are ancient a bit. When you look at the Motorola versus the Samsungs of this world, because the Samsung was adaptable to change, they tend to exist longer than the Motorola, who stick to their guns throughout. Well, I assume that they were using the other methodology, which is the waterfall one. Hence, actually, they never survived the changes that were happening during these days, whereby technology kicked in and we saw the LGs of this world coming up, and we saw the iPhones coming up, and obviously because of they using this methodology, they stick to it. That's why they couldn't survive or adapt. They were not adaptable to changes. I'm not sure whether that's not really correct in saying so.
No, Smanga, I think you're 100% correct.
100%. I mean, BlackBerry also fell into that market as well. Can you imagine smartphones that went to market with a black and white camera, and they didn't have but then you've got Samsung, and then you've got the iPhones. No, they won't survive. So, and that's business. Business value is you have to keep up as a business. You have to keep up with the competitors. And if you don't have a project management or methodology that will support business, that business is going to go under. I mean, that little scenario that we discussed now, that I posed to you about in this online shop, how many companies went under because they just didn't, they'd had no walk-in, during the pandemic, they had no walk-in customers. There were, so many, but in being able to respond to the business needs. I mean, who would have ever thought that we would have as many online shops as we do have today? It's just crazy. It's crazy. So you have to respond to the business need. You have to. And sometimes it's very difficult for a project manager because, as I say, you have to put your agile hat on and take it off, and then put your waterfall hat on because you're stuck in the middle. But my philosophy has always been, I'm a very nurturing project manager, and I will support the team till my dying day, and then some. But the business pays the checks. Yeah.
Andre's just asked a very good question as well, just to add to what you say.
Yeah.
And Andre is saying, is the Scrum Master just worried about the Scrum, or do they have to manage the people dynamics and everything else as well, and easy and quickly, immediately, because if Scrums are quick. And what I really like, so I'm going to let you answer it, but what I really like you keep on saying is as a project manager, because a Scrum Master is just a bloody good project manager.
That's exactly it. A Scrum Master has to be a good project manager. I get so annoyed because I'm in a lot of these Scrum forums, and they say, oh, once I've had my 2-day Scrum Master training, can I get what can I demand as a salary and what this and what that, they don't understand is you have to be a project manager first. First and foremost, you have to understand what is required of you as a project manager. A Scrum Master is a project manager. It's not just a person that's going to protect, because a Scrum Master, you've got to nurture your team. You've still got to go and fight the fight with the exco. It's not an easy job. People think it's simple, but it's not. But you've got to be passionate about it. And I've always been passionate. The team has always been my passion. And once you can get them through the delivery, they see the value of it. Everybody will celebrate their wins together, and then it becomes like this wonderful milestone that, oh, you know what, I worked on that project. You remember the project that brought ADSL to South Africa? That was my project, And to this day, I actually worked on that project. We brought out the first ADSL under my team, and we still have a WhatsApp group where we talk about it. So it's nice to be able to be a good project manager, be part of the team. But yeah, I don't know if that answered the.
No, I think so.
Or if I went off.
No. Cindy, and I think Andres added another really nice comment on it. He said, so the product owner is like the translator, and the Scrum Master is the magic maker. So the Scrum Master actually works the people in the process and the project to make it. And then the product owner does the translation so that Scrum, that team actually knows how to do it.
The product owner is basically your business representative.
Yeah.
The
translator.
The translator. Yeah, 100%. 100%. I like that. Yes.
The translator, and then of course biasly the magic maker. But it is true. It's like, and that's why a lot of the agile fail, because they think that a 2-day course can make you a really senior, very agile person that's made all the mistakes and done all the right things, and then can do it a hell of a lot smarter and faster. And that's really what a Scrum Master is. There's just another question. I just want to get to it quickly. It is Salesh.
Thanks, Prof, for the platform. Afternoon, Cindy. I just want to find out. So with Agile, right? Is it possible to have more than one Scrum Master while you're running something through Agile?
Well, more than one Scrum Master per team, no. But you can have multiple teams with multiple Scrum Masters. And in fact, a Scrum Master can run multiple teams. Not too many, though.
Not too many, though. Okay, cool.
If that answers it, they say 1-to-1 when you go on the courses. They would say one Scrum Master per team, but in reality, business is not prepared to have that. They always push you to take on more teams, and it's pretty hectic on the Scrum Master, because it's like if the teams are on the same project, then your mind is still in the same vein. But if you're doing one on an online shopping project, and you're doing another thing on a back-end security project, it's it's very taxing on the project manager.
Okay, cool. And then the next question that I have, so generally you would do a POC, proof of concept, with Agile, seeing that it is a sprint, call it a week, 1 week to 4 weeks more on IoT, because internet, software, and so forth. Would you be required to actually do a POC when you're running through Agile?
It's a good question. I can take it back to one of the projects I was on. we basically called it a pilot project, and that pilot project went live. So call it a dog with a different name, you know. Yes, it's a POC, but by the time it's a, you know, sometimes the POCs get forgotten in waterfall. You know, they'll say, oh well, you know, we'll get back to that, and thanks for all your hard work. We want to see it. We'll get back to you whether there's a budget. Whereas in Agile, you know, we did a POC with, I don't know if you remember when there was free Wi-Fi in every shopping center.
Yes, I do.
Okay, that was MWeb that did that free Wi-Fi in every shopping center right at the beginning. And that was the POC, but it actually went live and it carried on, and it's still, you know, to this day. There was a captive portal, there was everything that they still use today. So some POCs, you know, and if you think of it, I've worked on the old days where you do a POC and then all of a sudden, oh no, it gets forgotten and it never comes to life. So I find it more exciting to be in an agile environment and more rewarding.
Okay.
I think, Cindy, if I can just maybe add a little bit to what you said as well, is like you in a agile environment, is you agile. So sometimes you do innovation stuff that works and it goes live, and sometimes there's a user story, which means there's a specification for it because you know exactly what to do. So again, it's like, but it's also, you know what, I think there's another thing. I think a lot of people think we went from the strict waterfall project management, all of a sudden one day we woke up and we were agile. We didn't. Project management, even under waterfall, we started doing iterative releases. Then we called it spiral. I mean, if you actually look at that one lovely picture Cindy showed us, it actually shows how that spiral sort of fit into agile or evolved into agile. So it's not, so what I'm saying is if you get a project manager like Cindy and you talk agile, Cindy has been doing it all her life. She's just knows there's certain things she does a bit more formal, certain things she does more. Sometimes you're doing innovation projects, so it's like what'll be will be, or you stop it. That's why the nice thing with saying, listen, we are doing agile methodology because we're going to try it for 3 sprints. If it doesn't work, then we know, or if we have to change it, rather than this big, I'm building a building and that's what's going to happen. Cindy, I actually am just repeating what you're saying, but I think that's just.
I don't mind.
I mean, Andre actually said something interesting. He said, so, you know, sometimes that first iteration is the statement of work. You just didn't know it when you started.
Yep. No, it's really, I'm just trying to think what else.
Okay, no.
It's just the frequent.
No, Rahul, no. Rahul asked, is the product owner's role the same as a program manager? No, a program manager runs a program office which runs a lot of projects. Now that program manager might have agile projects and waterfall projects running, that doesn't matter, right? A product owner is the business process owner. It's somebody that works in business that actually wants you to do the work, that'll be able to translate the requirements. But don't think a program offers or doesn't have agile projects in it. It has everything in it.
It has a bit of everything.
Yeah. Cornelia has a question, Cindy. When a project is inevitably subject to change somewhere along the project lifecycle, like a construction project, would it be wise to have agile approach? But will this have time delay implications compared to waterfall? Okay. I think what Cornelia is saying is like, so we're busy building a building. People should be agile. But will that agility then change the timelines and all of those kind of things versus a waterfall? I think the benefit of a waterfall is there won't be delays, but the downside is you can't change.
Yeah. But, you know, so I think I heard a really good idea. When it comes to construction projects or whatever, if you think you're building a building and so that always tends to be a waterfall project, because you've got to agree the design, you've got to agree the costing up front and everything, and know what's going on. But once those floors have been built, you can then get into, before you even take occupation, you can take an agile approach in the completion of it, because you can say, well, we'll change the flooring, we'll change the interior decorating and everything like that. So the two will work hand in hand together. But yeah,
that was the best explanation I ever heard, because every office block, think of it, every single building, they built the framework, and then whoever moves in there, they build their offices. So it's actually building a waterfall framework for agile office development.
And that's why
Clever.
it honestly.
I want you guys about Cindy. Cindy Sandesh also has a hand up.
Thanks, Prof. I just have a question, right? So we're in the sales environment, right? Obviously, it's month to month. We given targets and so forth. Can a sales agent, be run as a project? And if so, what methodology would we use? Would we use waterfall or would we use agile? Because I'm just trying to see whether there's a way we can obviously better our departments.
Well, I mean, I had, so at MWeb, we had inbound call centers, outbound call centers, and sales agents had their targets, etc., etc. So now you saying from managing that call center or managing your sales people, are you going to be able to do it better as a agile shop? I would say 100% yes. I can tell you from experience that what happened at MWeb when we introduced, because we were one of the first companies to start using Scrum, and what happened there was our HR department and our marketing department, they were so impressed with what was going on and the excitement in the development department that they started doing stand-ups and things like that. And if you apply that same encouragement and team camaraderie into your sales team, 100%, I think agile would work much better than. You don't want to be micromanaged. I mean, don't micromanage your people. That's one way of killing them, for sure. You must give them the initiative. You must give them the tools to succeed. So, and it's the same thing, whether you're in a development shop, whether you're in a sales environment. It's all about the team. They have to be a committed team, a cohesive, committed team, a self-organized team. They must be respected, and if you apply all those nice little things to your sales team, I'm pretty sure that you could run it as an agile shop.
I mean,
Thank
Cindy,
you very
if you
much,
think
Cindy.
about it, the whole sales principle is about empowering, because those salespeople, every situation is different. Every person they speak to is different, the different time of day, the different weather, different things that's happened in the news, different products they can sell. So the products might have been developed, waterfall or whatever, but that sales team, that whole sales space, I would say, is purely agile. Because you still have your targets, but with agile, you still have your targets. So you still have your
objectives. And it might be that you're reporting. It might be that you're reporting in a waterfall process because your company wants it done like that. But the actual teams, no, they're agile.
Definitely agile, yeah. I mean, number one, how do they keep somebody on the phone long enough to sell to them? You know, because anybody gets a sales call. I'm busy. No, no, thank you. And then yet they sell. So talk about agile for leisure.
Yeah. And I think that, you know, if you, from an agile point of view, it goes back to that lovely KISS principle. You know, if you keep it simple, it'll work. It really will work. So, yeah.
I think another thing, Cindy, also, I mean, we've been around seeing different kinds of project offices and program offices and those kind of things. And quite often the reason it doesn't work is not about the methodology, it's about the people. You know, there's somebody that spent the last 20 years in their lives in a company and they just got themselves this senior position as a program manager, and they have all the power. They have lots of project managers that bow down to them. And now somebody comes in and say, I'm going to break your process. We're going to be agile. They normally the people that makes it. And meantime, it's not. It's actually just more power in the program office. But they don't understand the different, because remember, the thing with agile is you're empowering people, not controlling them.
Yeah,
right?
that's it.
That's it. And sometimes it's hard for people to let go of the control. It's like, no, we've always done it this way. You know, in IT, we always used to say, the tail wags the dog, right? When IT people decide what the business wants. And it's the same thing sometimes with the project. You will do waterfall. It's like, how do you even know what my project must do? You know, and then if I do waterfall, you say to me, I must do spiral. And then I tell you that spiral is damn close to agile, right? And it's like, no. So sometimes those changes are stopped by people, by that kind of stuff. People are scared to lose control. You're not losing control with agile. It's just a different kind of control.
Look, there's some departments that really are very difficult to transition. And the one that specifically I remember is the actual ops area, you know, where you got your senior engineers and they've been doing what they've been doing for the last 20 years, and you're not going to be able to change their way of doing things. They do it the way they do it. So yeah, those are challenging, and I think that's where you must try and bring in the Kanban principle, and maybe I think tomorrow it's Janita she might talk on the different, because Kanban is basically your to do and get done discussions, and so but that's also an agile way of doing things. It's not that you always have to sprint. So that's the one way you can get these old dinosaurs into the new age.
I mean, so, Cindy, Rory unfortunately couldn't do his session, but I remember last year when Rory started, he said, guys, the whole reason we do project management is for us to be agile. He says, that's why you got a plan so that you can change things. So agile is not this strange phenomenon. You just do it different ways, different reasons for different things. And it's just like, it's still a project. It's just the different principles you apply for different pieces of the project if you want to be more successful.
Yeah. No, that's absolutely, that's very good.
Thank you very much. Any other questions for Cindy? No, Cindy, but that was nice. Thank you very much. I think we had a lovely discussion around it. Yeah, and the key thing. Oh, there's Andre's got his hand up again. Thanks, Andre.
Hi, Cindy. If I may ask, so I've put it in the chat, but just to voice it. So with waterfall, it seems like even though there's a lot of planning, you can actually see holistically, this is when it should start, this is when it should end, and that's what the cost is. So it's almost like you can budget for it better. That's with the waterfall. But with the agile, you know, we're breaking it into pieces, we're building, and you know, we have like almost infinite build cycles.
No, so actually, I'm glad you brought up the budget discussion, because it might seem like that, but it isn't. If you put your project management hat on, and you say, right, we're agile, believe me, you still have a set budget. You still have to do it. Now you'll say, well, how on earth do you do that in an agile sprinting world? And when you become more involved in Scrum, and that you you have a facility where you can you've got a team, you can manage you can understand what the velocity is, if I can say. So that's the word that we use, is how do they program, how are they, are they getting to the points, are they delivering 100 points a sprint, or are they delivering 20 points a sprint? You got to have a very, very well groomed backlog. You remember I talked to you about the product owner who owns the backlog, and he keeps on grooming the backlog. You've got to have backlog grooming sessions in your sprints. You've got to have lots of meetings so that your guys, your architects and everything can size what it is what is this beast that the product owner wants you to develop. So, and in having a very well groomed backlog, you can chuck everything into a spreadsheet, and you can say, well, hang on, listen, what he's discussing and what he's asking us for is going to cost 2 million rand. We're not going to get there. We've only been given 500,000. So Mr. Product Owner, what feature are you going to take out? Because we cannot, on this budget, you either go back to business and ask for more budget, or that piece of string is so long. So now what would you like on that piece of string? You honestly, you'll be surprised how easy it is. And does that answer your question?
Yes, thanks, Cindy. So I see what you're saying. Because we're doing it in smaller increments, we can review and we figure out what are we going to sacrifice.
Yeah.
If the deadline is firm, do we have money to pull more people in?
Yeah.
If we don't have that, what are we willing to sacrifice feature-wise?
Yeah. Andre, I think the other thing also that we keep on saying you have to be a senior, strong project manager to be a Scrum Master. Sydney was talking about a shopping app. Sydney will know a shopping app, so she will look at the requirements once and say, so I need a product thing, I need a customer module, I need a payment module, I need a whatever. And she will know to develop a project module is most probably going to take 4 sprints, because that's normally what it takes. So you still need that knowledge in so you don't go into agile. If it's not an innovation project, you don't go in there shooting from the hip either. You sort of, and that's what I'm saying is people say, it doesn't work, but it's because maybe they're putting the 2-day training people in there, and they think they can do it like that. Corné, Cindy, we just got a meeting with Corné. A question from Corné as well.
Okay.
Hi, Prof. Hi, Cindy. Just a quick question on the agile approach and the waterfall approach. I know this is more focused on the Scrums and Scrum Masters and so forth. I would just like your expert opinion on how you would, how can I put it, detect early warning signs when it comes to the agile approach, because with the waterfall approach, I don't know that I've only been working with waterfall approaches to date. So in the agile approach, it's quite new to me. So I just want to try and understand how, if you break a project up into smaller, more manageable pieces, I think it could be potentially more difficult to detect early warning signs, if you understand my question.
Cindy, do you want to take that one, or you want me to give it the first attempt?
Well,
Okay.
I'll put a tuppence in. So it's not that you don't have a risk log, or you have to still have the artifacts that you do in normal project management. You have to have your risk log. You have to have your everything that is a problem. So that's why I keep on saying that you do need to put different hats on. When you're part of the team, when you're doing the scrumming and everything and iterations, you're part of the team, but you still owe the company your professional opinion on risks and things. So if somebody puts up a flag and says, hang on a minute, this isn't going to work. What's nice about Agile is if it's a really big flag, you can actually pull the brakes on and say, we're not going any further. You cancel the sprint, you cancel and you have a big post-mortem and you'll say, this is why we're stopping the project. But what else would you like to add to that, Prof?
No, Cindy, you know what maybe I'm seeing things simple because I don't have to struggle with it like people that actually does it for you. But let's take, if I can go back to the shopping app that you mentioned there. I see the shopping app from a business perspective, Corné, as a waterfall project. Because they have to do a business case, they have to justify, then we have to build it, then we have to go and negotiate with the suppliers, and then we've got to implement. But then building the app, I see as a definite agile environment, because guys, please just build the product module first, because guess what? Then we can start capturing all the products. And then can we please then capture the pricing module, because then we can start capturing the prices. And as we go along on a day-to-day basis, there's everything okay? And on a 2-weekly basis or a 3-weekly basis, does it make sense? So it's just being able to not go and say, we're going to go away for 6 months and then see if we're lucky. So again, quite often those things are so integrated. I think we use different methodologies and terminologies, but we sometimes use those things in a project anyway. We just not always saying, it's like, oh, and that's why I like it when Cindy keeps on going as a project manager, because sometimes she manages software, and then it's very much in an agile space, and then she develops. She manages the hardware to be installed, which is 100% in a waterfall stage. You can't put half the hardware and put the database in and then put half this. So it's sort of like it's in your head, and it's like
it must be natural.
Exactly. It's like having a box of Smarties. You can't just pick one color. You just eat a handful of the stuff, and you just don't know what you're doing. But then you need somebody that's got the experience, that's done it, and that knows what they're doing. And again, it's like when people go like, if they have a very tunnel vision, either in waterfall or in agile, then their projects don't work. But the projects don't work because the people actually don't work.
Yeah, I think what I can say from my point of view, I've been very fortunate to be in IT my entire career, and I've gone up through the rungs. I was in development, I was in analysis, I was, went up through, cut my teeth, if you want to put it like that, in every role. And it definitely has helped me look quicker, and I can get to logical answers a lot quicker than somebody who's just been formally trained. So yeah.
Cindy, I don't want to say it, but we learned project management not on project management systems. We went building mechanoset cranes. Remember that?
Yep.
There were no software or anything. I mean, we've done it about 10 years ago, Corné, so we're not really that old. It's just
10 years ago.
But it's like, I think what happens as well is we're getting such cool tools, but then we let the tail wag the dog sometimes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you, Cindy.
Sorry, Corné, I hope that answered you, or at least gave you our view.
Yeah, thank you so much. So just for the record, you guys look good.
For our age, for the
That's like-
experience.
Cindy, I
Well,
think
we've overgone. We went over our time.
Yeah, shame, Cindy, we've been exploiting you a bit, but
No,
just thank you
fine.
very much, Cindy, and
Enjoyed it.
thanks for sharing your wisdom with us. You know, that's always the thing is, if theory you can always Google, but wisdom you have to learn from other people. You know.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful, Cindy. Thank you. I see Maria's back as well. I don't know if Marie just wants to say something else, but I just want to thank you very much, Cindy. I really, really appreciate it, and thank you for sharing.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me back, and I hope it's given
I see you getting a lot of hearts and hand claps, huh? Cindy.
Hope it's given a bit of foundation to
absolutely
the new guys coming into your series.
Yeah, Cindy, you know, it's always so nice to hear how it really happens.
Yeah, got the scars.
yeah. I always say to people, and I get into trouble sometimes, but I always say it's like people say it's theory before practice. I say no, it's actually the other way around. Theory comes from practice. It's just a bit late. Yeah. No, not late, but it's it's great to have it, but it's not, you know, being there doing the work is normally, that's where the real things happen. Marie, sorry, I gave you the mic and then I kept talking.
Oh, no, no problem, Prof. No, Cindy, I also just wanted to say thank you so much. We always enjoy your session and it's so interactive. So thank you so much. And thank you for taking the time. We really do appreciate.
Thanks for the invite. I'll send you my slide pack now.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I will just share with the delegates.
Yeah.
Thank you. Much appreciated.
Thanks, Marie. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
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 Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.
Prof, are you going to go back to Blackboard with the delegates?
No.
I'm taking a break
Marie,
tomorrow.
Yeah,
we
yeah.
continue tomorrow.
We're going
Perfect.
back at 9 o'clock tomorrow. Yeah. So we'll be back there at 9 o'clock tomorrow. Yeah. But a nice session. Thank you.